Hi, this is Chris Callanan with Outcast Sporting Gear, and I'm here to talk about the oar system that we have on our frameless style boats. Frameless style boats have become very popular just because they're half the weight and they're easy to get around. The hardest part of the whole design was the oar system. It had to be lightweight, had to be flexible, and we had to be able to weld it on. We use this system, which has actually been used on dinghies for a long time. Everything that Outcast does is heat welded, so it's going to last forever. Anything that's ever glued is eventually going to peel off. That's why we feel ours is superior than some of the other ones out there. There are three basic areas that we made the improvement. The first one being this pin. What we found was that the pin at times pulled out in our tests. You know, it wasn't so much when we were in moving water where the oars were extended out, but it was in flat water when the oars were more vertical and we had a lot of stress on them. So generally speaking, these pins are scored just one time in the bottom. So they're in here, and we found that under certain types of stress, particularly vertical oar, we had them pull out, which would really kind of muck up the whole deal. What we did is we went ahead and we scored it an additional time. So they come scored here, we rotate it, it's scored one more time, so it's actually anchored in this plastic piece 2 times. I'm sure it's possible that they could pull out. In all our testing, we haven't lost any, so that's always been a good sign. The second area of improvement that we found, that once we had those things scored and it was anchored better, we found some cracking that would happen here. And again, it wasn't in moving water, it was always in flat water where you had a vertical oar either pushing forward or pulling. So we went through a bunch of these, and what we found that we needed a material that was a little bit more flexible than what was out there. So this plastic flexes a little, whereas the older style that we had were brittle and they would break. The third area of improvement that we went was ours are actually, as you can see here, there's a nylon nut and a screw. In most of the other ones, there's just a straight screw that goes through, almost like a wood screw, and over time they tended to back out. And you can see in an inside sample that these holes, they were just pushed down through there and they would back out. The nice thing about ours is, because we have a nylon nut at the end, they can't back out. They're easy to replace if you had to. As I've said, we've made all these improvements in our frameless oar lock, and nothing should happen. But just in case that something does happen, there's also a way to replace this key pin here. Clearly, we're never going to have to replace the outside because it's welded on there and it's just not going to come off. So there's a 3-step phase in order to replace the midsection. And perhaps if you are going on a long trip, you might want to take an extra one of these in case it does break. To replace or to remove the oar pin, you need 3 basic tools. You need an Allen wrench with a bit of 5/32. You need a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. The first step is the easiest one. At the end, there's a little tab in here. You're going to reach in with a screwdriver. I'm using a small one here. There's a little slit here that you can reach under it and pry it out. And inside you can see that there's, you know, the metal pin that's on the inside. The second stage is that we're going to take an Allen wrench and you're going to get it in there. And I've of course loosened everything up for the speed and fun of the video. And you're just going to remove the bolt, and then you're just going to take your screwdriver and poke it out. There's actually 2 sides to this. Also, to replace it, we're going to need to remove the piece of nylon string, and you're going to either untie the knot or cut it off so that you can pull this out so it's not going to get in the way. We're still working on removing this pin, but the best way to do this is have the boat inflated, because you're going to need a good stiff structure. Mine of course isn't, so I'm going to place it up against me. There's an aluminum pin on the inside that we're basically going to knock this way so that we'll be able to pry it out. So when you look inside, you're going to see the aluminum tube. You're going to brace a screwdriver on the end there. You're going to take a hammer and you're just going to tap, 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 and then you're going to push it out the other end about as far as it can go. Just keep tapping. It's going to come loose. And then at the last part, we're going to take the screwdriver and we're actually going to have to pry it a little bit out and twist it. So now we're going to replace, which is basically what we want to do is, for ours, particularly the new ones, You want to line up these holes together. If you have the older style that still have the smaller screws, which may be in an older boat or someone else's boat, you can line them up there. So we're going to line up the holes here, so it's going to go through. We're going to place this piece in place. Here's the hole that we're going to line everything up with. You've got it here. Going to get it started with your hand a little bit, because the real key is to get it through all three pieces, and to make sure that it isn't scored. Otherwise it makes it just a little bit harder to get through. You're going to take a hammer and you're just going to tap it right in. Make sure that it's gone through both places, and voila. You can actually, if the holes aren't exactly lined up correctly, you can actually spin this a little bit and use your screwdriver to kind of tap it in a little bit more. And so once we've tapped it into where it's flush, you're going to take a screwdriver, you're just going to put it on the edge there, and you're going to tap it down till it centers itself, and that you have the holes lined up on the other side so that we'll be able to slide it in easily. If you're on the river and you need to go quick, it's not like this is going to fall out, so you don't necessarily need to put the screws in for a day of fishing. Wait till you get back to the vehicle or back to your home. So we've tapped it in, we've got the screw holes that are lined up in place, and then we're just going to pop everything we've got back into place like we had it. And again, it is, you know, for a day's worth of fishing, you could certainly get by without using screws. Just get out your Allen wrench. And that's how we replace the oar pin.